Hello and a very good afternoon. It's 1 p.m. time for Verdict 2015. I'm your host Frank Pereira. You're watching Rajya Sabha Television. Here are the headlines. Voting for second phase of elections in Bihar underway. 36.27% votes cast so far as people in 6 districts exercise their franchise to decide the fate of 458 candidates. Security blanket across districts polling today. Paramilitary forces, aerial and video surveillance is in place to ensure free and fair polls. Set back to the third front in Bihar, NCP announces that it will contest alone, says it doesn't agree with Mulayam Singh's remarks endorsing the BJP. And the Election Commission relies on advanced technology to assist officials as they check the use of black money in these elections. Well, voting is currently underway in 6 districts of Bihar for the second phase. Massive security arrangements are in place as some of the most sensitive areas in the state are polling. 36.27% votes have been cast so far. Here's a report.
After the high-voltage campaigning for the second phase of elections in Bihar ended on Wednesday evening, today is the big day when 6 districts in the state vote to decide their future candidates. Tight security is in place as many of the districts are Naxal affected.
सब पैरामिलिट्री फोर्सेस को भेज दिया गया है अपने अपने इलाके में. एरिया डोमिनेशन अभी भी चल रहा है. वोटर्स का कॉन्फिडेंस के लिए हम लोगों ने फ्लैग मार्चेस करवाई हैं और लगातार डीमाइनिंग ऑपरेशंस हो रहे हैं. एंटी नक्सल एंटी क्रिमिनल ऑपरेशंस भी हो रहे हैं. इसलिए हमारी फ्लाइंग स्क्वाड की टीम, स्टैटिक चेकिंग टीम्स, हर पॉइंट पे चेकिंग्स लगी हैं.
Like in phase 1, paramilitary forces are manning the polling booths across the state. The responsibility of patrolling is with the local police. There's also an aerial surveillance of sensitive polling booths. Drones are being used to keep vigil. Video surveillance at polling booths is being done and flying squad teams are in place to address any complaints. Landmine protection vehicles are marching in Naxal-affected areas. 20 companies of the paramilitary forces are engaged in road opening work.
सिक्योरिटी के अभूतपूर्व इंतजाम किए गए हैं और हर जगह सुरक्षा बल तैनात है. चाहे हमारे गांव का सुदूर बूथ हो, वहां पर भी पैरामिलिट्री फोर्सेज हैं. चाहे अर्बन एरिया हो, हर जगह सुरक्षा बल तैनात है. रास्तों की भी पेट्रोलिंग की जा रही है क्योंकि हमारे कई रास्ते खतरनाक हैं. कई जंगल के माध्यम से जाते हैं, कहीं पर लैंड माइंस का खतरा है, कैन बॉम्ब्स मिल रहा है. तो उन एरियाज़ की हम लोग रोड ओपनिंग पार्टीज के माध्यम से पूरी डिमाइनिंग करवा रहे हैं, चेकिंग करवा रहे हैं ताकि किसी प्रकार की घटना या दुर्घटना ना हो.
Voting is taking place in 6 districts today. 32 seats in these 6 districts are voting. 456 candidates are in the fray. Voting is being held in Gaya, Rohtas, Arwal, Kaimur, Jahanabad and Aurangabad. Polling began at 7 a.m. and will end by 3 p.m. in 1/3 of the seats, 4 p.m. in the other third of the seats and 5 p.m. in the final third. Voting percentage during the previous elections in these districts was low. The Election Commission had initiated several programs to educate voters here on the need to exercise their franchise. Religious organizations also appeal to people to exercise their rights. Polling time has been revised in sensitive areas. The voting percentage in the first phase of elections was 2% more than the last time, but that figure was less than expected. There is hope that better security and awareness about the need to vote will positively impact voter turnout today. Pranav Goswami's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Joining me for a chat this afternoon to talk about the polls in Bihar is Rai Atul Krishna, Deputy Resident Editor of the Hindustan Times. He joins me from Patna. Very good afternoon and thank you for joining me on the program. You know, as far as the second phase of polling is concerned, we've seen a voter turnout of almost 40% up until now. And of course, that number is going to rise further. In the previous elections, we saw that the voter turnout in these constituencies was not very high, but it looks like, you know, good signs ahead.
Most certainly, the Election Commission has been running a very, very effective campaign to motivate voters to come to the booth. In fact, when in the first phase, when only 57% polling, which was substantially more than the previous election, took place, then also the Election Commission said they were disappointed that the numbers did not exceed 60%. Now in this area, if it really exceeds 60%, I think that will be quite an achievement for the Election Commission and its campaign.
Indeed, quite an achievement. But what are the factors do you believe that are going to influence the voters in this second phase of polling?
In second phase of polling, I think the biggest factor on test will be the electoral efficacy of Mr. Jitan Ram Manjhi, who during the 9 months of his rule as Chief Minister of Bihar, did things that, led to the impression that he was emerging as a Dalit icon at the ripe age of 70. Now, whether that holds good or not will certainly be put to test in this particular phase, because in this phase, Mr. Manjhi is contesting from 2 seats.
Indeed.
His traditional Magdumpur seat, which he won in 2010, and he's also crossing swords with Assembly Speaker Mr. Uday Narayan Chaudhary. The two have very bad relationships. In fact, Mr. Manjhi, even today I saw him on TV accusing Mr. Chaudhary of being one-sided and inclined towards, Mr. Nitish Kumar in his handling of legislators who tried to cross sides during a long phase, and many of them were disqualified. And Mr. Manjhi was on record today to say that Supreme Court had reversed several of such decisions, thereby establishing that as he said it, Mr. Chaudhary was not entirely fair.
Indeed.
So Manjhi is a factor. His son, Mr. Santosh Kumar Suman, is making his electoral debut in Kutamba in Aurangabad district. Now that is also a very important factor. Besides that, about 4 ministers or ex-ministers and the Nitish government are also in the fray in this election. So it's going to be a very important phase in which both sides are not, if not equally balanced, at least more balanced as compared to the first phase, in which the Grand Alliance appeared to have a clear edge before the voting took place. Of course, it's a matter of record that after the voting was over, both sides are claiming that they have had the upper hand in that phase.
Indeed, that's what's happening as far as both sides are concerned, each claiming that they have the upper hand. But, as far as Manjhi is concerned, everything is at stake for him. He stands to either gain a hell of a lot or lose, as much in this particular phase of polling. But, talking about some of the big wigs, we spoke about some big names that are contesting in these polls. Also, on the other hand, if you look at it, Rai Atul Krishna, over 140 people of the 450 odd candidates that are, that are in the fray today hold criminal records. Now, do you believe that that is going to play a role in these polls, or do you think that issues like, corruption and criminal records don't really have anything much to do with these polls?
In an election, when the political discourse is shifting to things like caste, like Mr. Lalu Prasad Yadav saying that it's between the backwards and forwards in Bihar, Mr. Narendra Modi pitching in for the development agenda that he has unveiled through his 1.25 lakh crore package that he announced in Ara on August 18. So you see, these appear to be the main issues on which this voting will take place. But you see, criminals are there in all phases. And somehow I am left with the impression that having a criminal record and, having maybe even some corruption cases is not such a drawback as far as the electorate is concerned. It may influence a small section of voters, but it does not leave me with the impression that it will decisively influence the voters against such candidates as have criminal records.
Do stay with us. I'm going to come back to you for reaction on the next story that we're tracking here on Verdict 2015 as well. Now, in order to attract women voters in large numbers, new initiatives have been taken up by the Election Commission this time around. Around 7 polling booths in Gaya are being manned by women. High-level security has also been provided to these polling stations.
I'm standing right in front of a model polling station in Gaya. This is a unique initiative by Election Commission. This polling station is completely dedicated to women empowerment. All responsibilities have been taken up by women force. Polling personnel are women. Security arrangements are being looked after by women security personnel. And you can see there are all sort of facilities available in this model polling station. You can see there's a children park. Kids are playing while their parents are casting their votes in this polling station. There there are medical facilities, there are drinking water facilities in this particular model polling station, and we've got some young voters with us. We'll be speaking to them. It must be very fascinating after seeing this sort of arrangement, and this shows the women empowerment, the power of women.
I feel very glad to see this management, and I want to education and avoid corruption and development.
बिहार में सबसे बड़ी चीज है कि विकास का मुद्दा हमारा है, शिक्षा है, बेरोजगारी है, ये सब चीज हमारे बिहार में आए, हम लोग सुरक्षा हम लोग को मिले।
देखिए, विमेन एम्पावरमेंट थीम को ध्यान में रख करके ये पूरा कॉन्सेप्ट रखा गया है। आज इलेक्शन खास करके गया जैसे जिलों में जहाँ नक्सल प्रभाव है, वहाँ लोगों में एक थोड़ा भय पैदा होता है, लोगों में खौफ पैदा रहता है कि साहब पोलिंग स्टेशन जाएंगे तो क्या हो जाएगा। उस माहौल को ठीक करने के लिए हम लोगों ने ये किया कि अब महिलाएं जब मतदान केंद्र संभाल रही है, महिलाओं के हाथ में जब सुरक्षा है, तब सब कुछ अच्छा है। मतलब आप यू कैन बी कॉन्फिडेंट इनफ। और जो कुछ समस्याएं आती हैं वो हर ज़िले में आती हैं कुछ, लेकिन सुरक्षा इतनी हम लोगों ने की है कि व्यवस्था अच्छी रहे। और ख़ास करके जब महिलाओं को हम लोग ने ये व्यवस्था दी तो आसपास के लोगों में, खास करके गया टाउन में, तो इतना अच्छा माहौल पैदा हुआ और महिलाएं वोट देने के लिए काफ़ी संख्या में आ रही हैं। और हमें उम्मीद है कि इस बार हमारा मतदान प्रतिशत बढ़ेगा और विमेन।
Our correspondent Pranav Goswami there bringing you an update as to what the Election Commission is doing and how the Election Commission is going all out to ensure that arrangements are up to date and arrangements are being made so that the voter turnout is high. Let's go back to our guest right now, Rai Atul Krishna, Deputy Resident Editor of the Hindustan Times. Small things like this go a long way in sending out a message to the people. The Election Commission, as we discussed earlier in the program too, has done a stellar job, in trying to ensure that the polling goes on smoothly.
Most certainly, the security is very tight, and considering parts of, Gaya and Aurangabad and even Rohtas and Kaimur are affected by Maoism, it is only expected that security will be tight. But, that point you made about women is important because what you showed today in this program by way of some polling booths being manned almost exclusively by women is also very important for the messaging that it gives, women's seats were reserved in panchayats in 2006 and 7. And for many years, we heard that in many cases women were elected were basically lame ducks, and their husbands were actually wielding the power that should have been their say. But I think that situation is changing, and because thanks to the continuing efforts, women are asserting more and more as compared to what it was earlier. And but what we still don't know is whether when women come out in large numbers to vote in an election, whether they are voting by way of women as a class, or they are, voting as per what their inclinations are. In fact, in the family, suppose one family is inclined towards one and other families, and whether they are breaking out of that straitjacket to vote differently is what we don't know as of now.
Indeed, we don't know that as of now, and it's very difficult to understand as well, which way the women are voting. But one thing's for sure, women coming out and voting in large numbers is certainly an encouraging sign, and that's what we've seen in the first phase as well. 57% voter turnout, but about 60% of those were women, and it looks like this time around too, when we look at some of the serpentine queues of voters, that the voter turnout as far as women is concerned is going to be high this time too.
Most certainly, Frank. In fact, it is really, really very, very encouraging to see women come out this way, because you see, they are half the population, as we often hear on social media platforms. So unless they are an equal participants in the democratic process, this democracy will be, diminished that much as the population is less, as their participation is less compared to men. And, women now are part of that aspirational class of voters, which is looking for a better life, better education facilities, and better job opportunities, and is not willing to be merely confined to the straitjackets of caste, community, and things like that. But, as I said earlier, this thing remains to be tested. We are seeing very, very good signs. But ultimately, it may still take some more time before it crystallizes into something more concrete.
Indeed. We'll have to wait and watch and see how that happens, of course. But do stay with us. We'll come back to you after this very short break and talk to you about a couple of other stories too that we're tracking here on Verdict 2015. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Tradition dating back centuries. A cultural heritage that inspires and warms at once. Magic that awes. Rajya Sabha Television brings you events that embrace the wonders of India's classical arts. Conversations with the biggest names in the culture and music. Rajya Sabha Television, democracy at work.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha Television. Well, in what could be termed as a setback to the Third Front alliance in Bihar, the Nationalist Congress Party has announced that it will contest alone in the ongoing Bihar Assembly elections and not ally with any party, giving a severe jolt to the Samajwadi Party Supremo Mulayam Singh Yadav and Jan Adhikar Party Chief Pappu Yadav. NCP has decided to contest over 45 seats in the state. Senior NCP leader Tariq Kanwar admitted that there is some confusion in the Third Front in Bihar.
समाजवादी पार्टी, जन अधिकार पार्टी, एनसीपी और हम लोग दूसरी पार्टियां मिलकर जो एक गठबंधन बनाया था, उससे हम अपने आप को अलग कर रहे हैं। और उसका कारण यही है कि मुलायम सिंह का जो बयान आया, वो बयान हम लोग ऐसा मानते हैं कि वो दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण है, क्योंकि उससे कहीं न कहीं ये संकेत मिल रहा है कि वो भारतीय जनता पार्टी के पक्ष में है।
Well, let's go back to our expert to get a reaction from him on this topic as well. Rai Atul Krishna, Deputy Resident Editor of the Hindustan Times, is still with us on the program. As far as the Third Front is concerned, right from the beginning, the alliance seemed to be an opportunistic alliance. It seemed to be on iffy grounds. And this was somewhere bound to happen, wasn't it?
It was expected in the sense that, as you said, this is a makeshift kind of a formation which happened only because the participants couldn't find enough space in the mainline parties and the two formations, that is the NDA and the Grand Alliance. So at any point of time, they were not big contenders for winning major seats. But even in the pre-election surveys, we have found that they will make only a very peripheral impact. And as far as NCP is concerned, it is hardly a force in Bihar. And for it to break away from Mulayam Singh Yadav on the ground that Mr. Yadav had said somewhere, apparently he was quoted as saying that, NDA was well poised to sweep Bihar or something to that effect. So to break away from that, in fact, I feel NCP would have been better served had they accepted the 3 seats that the Grand Alliance was offering them at the very initial stage. In fact, what would have been better is had they bargained for a couple of more seats, they would have got it. And, maybe contesting 5 seats or something would have left them in a better position to win a few as compared to, I don't know how many seats they are contesting now.
In the larger picture, of Bihar, this seems to be like, something that is going to go away as just a little hiccup or a speck. But, as far as the Third Front is concerned, it is indeed a big jolt. And, as far as Samajwadi Party is concerned, where Mulayam Singh still wields a little bit of power in some of the border areas of UP and Bihar, do you still think that he's going to still wield that kind of a of power there in those areas, or is he going to be insignificant?
You know, there are 2 districts which are going to the polls in this phase, I think about 11 seats, which are right on border of eastern UP. Now, Mulayam Singh's party, the Samajwadi Party, is certainly a force in some of these constituencies. And, they have fielded people who have won earlier, maybe not on their ticket, on some ticket or the other. And at least in those 2 districts, they are expected to make an impact. But more than Mulayam Singh's party, I think it's Mayawati's Bahujan Samaj Party, which may leave its impact on several of these 11 seats. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they win a few out of those seats.
So would you say then the BSP would be a surprise black horse there, especially in these seats?
A dark horse certainly in these seats, these 11, primarily these 11 seats in the 2 twin districts of Kaimur and Sasaram, which are right on the border of eastern Uttar Pradesh, and where, the politics of one region leaves an impact on the other. And Mayawati's party has been winning since 1995. In fact, in 1995 state election, Mayawati's party won 2 seats. Mahabali Singh Kushwaha won from Chainpur, and Suresh Pasi won from Mohania. But both the 2 MLAs were weaned away by either RJD or JDU, and then the party was left with nothing. But, they are a force, and since 1995, there have been some force, and our feedback is they are quite in the race in several of these seats.
All right, do stay with us, Rai Atul Krishna. I'm going to come back to you for a final reaction, of course, on the last story that we're tracking here on Verdict 2015. The Election Commission has a tough challenge in trying to check the use of black money. The Commission is using advanced technology to assist its officials with telling effect. Here's more.
Campaigning at fever pitch amid the reckless comments, claims, questionable actions by parties and functionaries. The Election Commission is having its hands full in dealing with model code violations. To keep an eye on the campaigners, it has pressed into service squads that travel in GPS-fitted vehicles.
जीपीएस लगा हुआ, इसका मॉनिटरिंग होता है सेंट्रलाइज, और हम लोग को निर्देश जैसे मिलता है आधे घंटे के अंदर वहां पहुंचते हैं.
Election Commission officials say that compared to the Lok Sabha elections, black money seizures have been more this time. While 6 crore rupees was seized in the 2014 parliamentary elections, action against all parties in the last 4 weeks has yielded 15 crore so far. 850 illegal arms have been confiscated, 1500 FIRs have been filed against various people including administrative officials.
जितनी भी फ्लाइंग स्क्वाड के व्हीकल्स हैं उसमें जीपीएस डिवाइसेस लगाने का और उसका ऑनलाइन ट्रैकिंग करने का व्यवस्था किया गया, जिससे जो ए कैटेगरी हाईएस्ट एक्सपेंडिचर सेंसिटिव कॉन्स्टिट्यूंसीज के जो टीम्स हैं उनके एक्चुअल मूवमेंट और जो शिकायत मिल रही है कितना जल्दी जाके वो अपना अटेंड कर रहे हैं, इन चीज़ों को मॉनिटर करने का व्यवस्था किया गया.
The Election Commission has set up 24-hour call centers in all district headquarters. Anyone can call in with a complaint, after which the nearest flying squad team is rushed to the spot.
जैसे कि कहीं पर पैसा बांट रहे हो, कहीं शराब बांट रहे हो, कभी साड़ी बांट रहे हो, ऐसी कोई शिकायत आती है उसे वह टेलीफोन के माध्यम से बताया जाता है. हम लोगों के द्वारा उसे संबंधित जो पदाधिकारी हैं, जैसे जिस विधानसभा क्षेत्र में आरओ है, उड़नदस्ता है, वीवीपीटी है, जो भी है उसके तहत उसको हम लोग सूचना देते हैं और उनके द्वारा कार्रवाई की जाती है.
The expenses of political parties on posters, banners, vehicles, cost of lunches and dinners are all added to the party tab.
There are parallel teams जो उनके खर्च को ऑब्जर्व करते रहता है, तो उससे भी आरओ और डीओ कंपेयर करते हैं कि कैंडिडेट जो डिक्लेयर कर रहे हैं हमारा इतना खर्च हुआ और उनके जो टीम्स ने ऑब्जर्व किया उसमें क्या खर्च है, तो दोनों में डिविएशन है तो उनको नोटिस करते हैं.
The Election Commission is taking all possible steps to ensure a free and fair poll, no doubt underscoring the special significance of these assembly elections. Pranav Goswami's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Let's go back to our guest right now, Rai Atul Krishna. As far as the power of money is concerned, how much of an impact do you think that's going to have on these polls?
it's going to have a very, very, very big impact. Despite all the efforts of Election Commission to curb black money and all these seizures of cash that you're hearing about, is just a tip of the iceberg. Every party is, saying that it's going to cost each candidate a lot more money than is allowed as per the law. And I don't know whether you're aware of this, Frank. I was going through the affidavits of the candidates, and even an organization called the Association of Democratic Reforms, which did an analysis of the affidavits filed by the candidates, shows that a large number of people who have declared assets worth over crore have not even declared their PAN details. There are many people, crorpatis, who have given no account of their income tax returns. And I'm sorry to tell you this. This was the case even during the 2014 Lok Sabha election. And till date, we have no information, at least I have no information, that Election Commission actually after the election went through those affidavits to take any kind of action or hold any of such candidates to account for not declaring, information that would have enabled the commission to actually curb black money. So, I'm sorry, black money is a big play in this election, as it has been in all recent elections.
It is a big player, and it has been in the past as well, like it is right now. We only hope that in the future it will not be the same. Rai Atul Krishna, thank you so much for joining us on the program and putting things into perspective for us on several of those issues that we discussed here on Verdict 2015. That's it on this edition of Verdict 2015. I hope you enjoyed the show. Have a good day. Bye-bye.